welcome to Cracking the Cryptic and our Friday Crossword Masterclass. Today it's not Simon who usually presents this, it's me, Mark. And actually, before we begin, I am going to do some boasting. People very often ask me what was the quickest crossword, the quickest times crossword especially, I ever solved. And it changed 3-4 days ago. You can just see at the bottom of the screen a time of 2:25 under the 888 points. That was Monday's crossword, and I feel a little cheaty here because I got an email from Simon telling me that Matthew Marcus, known as Verlaine, had recorded a very fast time on this puzzle. So when I opened it up, I knew that there was a potential to go quickly. And I probably spent quite a lot less time reading each individual clue and just finding an answer from it and whacking it in and moving on than I might normally do. But nonetheless, I recorded a time of 2 minutes 25, and that's 10 seconds better than my other two best times, which were both themselves outliers. I think I may now only have 3 solves under 3 minutes. And I know Matthew has probably done a quicker puzzle than that. Other people have. Jason James, who not only solves brilliantly, but can type very fast, might well have a quicker time. Actually, Liam Hughes these days is recording times that might well come under that as well, and all very believable. So there may be other people with quicker times. I'm not saying this is a world record. I remember reading from just before I was doing the puzzle, I have read in books that Roy Dean, who had won the Times Crossword Championship, wrote to the paper to say that he had done that mornings in 4.5 minutes in a station waiting room, and wondered, was that the world record? And I saw it listed as the world record time a few times. I mean, I think that's very wrong. It was completely unsupervised, as is my claim here. Nobody watched me solving that puzzle. I could easily have been cheating. I'm telling you I wasn't, but how would anyone know? So a totally personal, unsupervised time should not, in my view, qualify for any record ever. But there we go. Since people ask me, I'm now telling you that my time has fallen by 10 seconds. My best time is now 2 minutes 25. There. I went on for a long time about that, and I feel very dirty having done it. What does not make me feel dirty is an email we received from Grace congratulating her partner Dougal on his 24th birthday yesterday. Happy birthday, Dougal. And Grace said, I just wanted to write and say thank you for your cryptic crossword videos. I've been watching them from New Zealand for nearly 2 years, along with your Sudoku videos, and introduced my partner to them a few months ago. Yesterday, we solved our first cryptic crossword together, just in the local paper. We'll work our way up to the Times, thanks to your videos. I know they don't get as many views as some of the other stuff on the channel, but I want you to know they're so valuable. Neither of us knew a thing about cryptic crosswords before watching your videos, and we have so much fun solving them together. Anyways, I just wanted to say thank you again. It felt like a big accomplishment for us, and just before his 24th birthday on Thursday. So very well done. I remember very well my first ever completion of a Times crossword. I was still at school, about the age my son is now, I guess. And the feeling stayed, well, I mean, I can remember it now. The feeling stayed with me for ages then. It is a big moment when you complete your first solo puzzle. So very well done, Grace and Dougal. Very happy to shout you out before we tackle today's puzzle, which I am told is by Roger Phillips. Now, on Patreon, we put up some quite difficult crosswords occasionally, and each month, one of those is my monthly club special. Well, I call it my monthly club special because I do the solve. It is not my monthly club special. The puzzles are written on alternate months by Mark Kelmanson, known as Monk, and Roger Phillips, sometimes known as Kia, who has been for many years, is the main editor of the Listener Crossword Puzzle, and is an absolute, he's a genius, he's hilarious company, he's an incredibly nice man, and I'm a big fan of Roger Phillips. I've very occasionally participated in a puzzle hunt with him in person, so I feel I know him quite well, but he sets the most brilliant puzzles. Do go on to Patreon and check out not only the monthly club special solves, because they're really interesting. If you like these crossword videos and you want to see how extreme it can sometimes get, those are amazing. But also recently, about a week ago, we published my solve of Sabre's Listener. This is the puzzle edited by Roger and Shane, another friend of mine. And Sabre set an absolutely fantastic puzzle called 2 in 1 3, and that solution is on our Patreon. So do check it out. We'd love you to join us on Patreon. It's very reasonably priced, and some people are joined just for the crossword content, and I totally understand that. And others are joined just for the Sudoku content, and some for everything. There is indeed a new Gridogram video today, in case you're interested. Right. We will be, I don't know if we'll be streaming on Monday. We'll find out if we'll be streaming on Monday. So don't totally rely on it for now. We will be obviously back with Sudoku videos today, both Simon and myself, and with Minute Cryptic and Wordle in a Minute. So do check those out on the channel. In fact, my Wordle in a Minute will be up already by the time this goes out. So that is enough ado. Without any further, let's have a look at today's Times Cryptic number 29,591 by Roger Phillips. And it's likely to be very difficult given that provenance. Let's get cracking. So actually, I say that, I should always click before I say that because the time's a bit slow. Now you can see that good. Okay, right, one across. Abandoned, of course I will be wild. Right, abandoned is a very useful word. It's an indicator word so often. And here it is again. It suggests that the letters of the following word or words should be abandoned. They should be crazy. They should be out of order, and literally out of order. Now we're looking for 9 letters, and the next 3 words are of course I. And what could they be? They could be ferocious, which is defined in this clue as wild. So that's the answer to one across. Then we can move to one down. But I mean, it's lovely if you can get one across in a puzzle. There's normally a one across. If you can get it, it gives you it gives you not only a lot of first letters for entries, but I was speaking to a friend recently who confirmed for me his strong belief, well, he confirmed his belief that the clue writing of a puzzle is very often done by constructors in order, and they get a little easier as they get towards the end because the effort they're going into to make them misleading has slightly waned, I think. I don't know if that's always true. I've got a lot of experience, and I'm not sure I can confirm that, but my friend Richard certainly believes it, and maybe that will mean the downs are very slightly easier than the acrosses, and we've got their first letters. Anyway, one down, shy away from Florida Island. So Florida has, well, we often focus on abbreviations that are in Chambers Dictionary. That's kind of a very important source for this puzzle, and only the abbreviations in Chambers are allowed. That's why L equals large and S equals small are exceptions, but it's why you won't see, what am I trying to think of? W for win or something is not in Chambers, so it won't appear here. Anyway, Florida has not only the slightly more old-fashioned FLA in Chambers, I believe, but also the more current US postal abbreviation of FL. So we could be looking at FL or FLA for Florida. To shy away from beginning with FL, well, I'm thinking flinch there. And inch is a kind of Gaelic word for island. It's in a lot of place names in Scotland. They're called Inch, some Inchmore, and so on. In Ireland, that is Inish, in Inishfree and others. And I think we can put in flinch, inch for Ireland. I mean, it's not just in Gaelic and Irish, it's also in the English language as a loan word from those countries. Right, 2 down, taking the tube. Run provided narrow path for divided area. Well, here I'm seeing certain possible words that are abbreviations in Chambers. Run can be R from cricket. Provided can be if. Area can be A from geometry. But maybe it's that R and if that we should focus on because of the R that we've got in the grid. If we were to try and begin this answer with R if, well, we could make Rift Valley. That, I believe, is in Kenya and Ethiopia, believed to be the cradle of mankind. It's where the earliest fossilized bones have been found and so on. And I presume from its name that there is a big rift, and therefore it is a divided area as Rift Valley. So I can see R for run, if for provided. TV could be the tube. Sometimes television is called the tube. That's quite old-fashioned, but I've heard it. Maybe it's more American, I don't know. But TV could be the tube, and narrow path could be alley. So we've got R if alley, taking TV inside it, and we get Rift Valley. And we're transported to the heat of Africa from the heat of London. Right, 3 down. Treat as 1 or 2-dimensional in 3D figure. Now, beginning with C, 8 letters. I'm thinking about, I don't know the answer here, I'm thinking about cube as a 3D figure, but there's also cone. That is a standard geometrical 3D figure. And its letters are a bit more conducive to longer words. So if we tried to put 1 or 2-dimensional into con something E, that seems the natural break in cone. No, treat as 1. Let's assume that's the definition. Split, we're going to kind of lift and separate out 1 or 2-dimensional. We're going to split it into treat as 1 for the definition. The or then means that the other way you can get this word is by doing the word play, the recipe as Simon would describe it. And then we need to put something meaning 2-dimensional in cone. Oh, flat. Yes, I think flat is 2-dimensional because it's got length and breadth, but not, or length and width, but not height or not breadth. I don't know. Flat is, linear is 1-dimensional. Planar is 2-dimensional, and that can be flat. And if we put flat into cone where I said, we get conflate, which means to treat as 1. If you conflate 2 ideas, you treat them as the same one. Right, I'm going to have a quick look at 4 down. Australia cut off Japanese conductor. Australia can be A, it can be Oz, spelled A-U-S, but it can also be O-Z. Now, there is a Japanese conductor called, I was thinking Osaka, but that doesn't work for the rest of this wordplay. If Australia is OZ, cut off would have to give AKA if Osaka was right. I'm now thinking maybe my memory is saying Ozawa. And I think that conductor is an orchestra conductor and has a 5-letter first name that might begin with T or a vowel. I don't know. But I think there is a chap called Ozawa. Now, why would AWA be cut off? Because off can mean away. If you're off something, if you're off, you're away. And if that gets cut, you cut off the last letter. And I'm going to rely on my flaky memory to tell me that there is a Japanese conductor called something Ozawa. And my apologies to classic music fans for not knowing presumably one of the most famous conductors in the world intimately. But there we are. That's what you get with me in classical music. I mean, I'm pleased enough to know enough that I think that is a plausible answer because it's not a word string, a letter string that you would expect necessarily. Now, 10 across. I'm not even looking at the clue. If this isn't Infanta, I'm going to be very surprised. Infanta is a princess in old Spain, I want to say. Supporter cheers on popular princess. Well, there's my definition, princess. That's what we wanted. Supporter is a fan, presumably, and cheers can be tar. It's a way of saying thank you in Britain. All of those three, cheers, thank you, tar, they all mean the same thing. And if we put fan tar, not the drink, but the two letter strings, onto a word for popular, which is in, something is very in at the moment if it's popular, we get this princess, the Infanta. It is said, I don't know with what level of truth, that the Elephant and Castle area of London and pub may have been originally dedicated to the Infanta de Castile, and gradually Infanta de Castile got corrupted into Elephant and Castle, which I love as a story, and I hope it's true, although I think it may have been debunked. Anyway, let's have a look at 12 across, where, I don't know, I mean, I can think of at least one word that fits. Could it be cavalcade? Let's have a look. Fall with Valerie for Singleton's first procession. Now, what this clue is referring to, and you need to be my age to know this, and none of you are, there was a TV presenter on a children's program when I was a child called Valerie Singleton. The program was Blue Peter. She was one of three presenters. Blue Peter always had three presenters. They rotated, but for a long time during my childhood, those three presenters were Valerie Singleton, John Noakes, and Peter Purvis. It's just burned in the brain. Anyway, we can ignore all of that because none of that matters in this clue. I'm just telling you why Valerie and Singleton appear in it. It's to get a laugh out of people like me, and it works for me. Anyway, fall. I'm thinking of a word like procession. Looks like cavalcade to me. I think that's fine. A cavalcade is a kind of dramatic and prearranged procession, particularly military. Now, Val could be Valerie. That's fine. So that could be replacing something. And what it could be replacing is the S, Singleton's first letter, in the word cascade, which can be a waterfall or a fall. So if we take cascade and we replace S with Val, we get cavalcade. And Roger gets me to have a laugh remembering Blue Peter. Right, let's have a look at 5 down. We've got a couple of letters for a 9-letter word. It's a long clue though, and that means the wordplay is going to be probably quite difficult to discern. Estate, possibly blocking 2/3 of Midland City, upset, intimidating figure in his field. An estate. Okay, that is quite hard, and I don't know. Oh, intimidating figure in his field. What is a very hard thing to do in crossword clues, and an absolute mark of the best compilers, is to disguise the definition such that it means what it says, but you can't tell. So in a lot of these earlier clues, we've seen that procession meant cavalcade. And I probably, when I was guessing at cavalcade, I might have described it as a procession. When I was describing Infanta, I said princess. There was princess in the clue. You can't disguise definitions very much. When you can, it's brilliant. And I think this one here, what I've just noticed is intimidating figure in his field, question mark. And I'm thinking of a professor who's a bit scary because he's an expert. But what is a literal intimidating figure in a literal field? It's a scarecrow. That's what it's there to do. It's there to intimidate the birds. And scarecrow fits here. So I'm sure that's going to be right. Estate could be a car. So that is a type of car. Is that what's called a saloon car in America? I don't know. I'm terrible at cars. Anyway, there is such a thing as an estate car, sometimes called an estate. So estate possibly can give car. That is blocking. Well, what is it blocking? SECROW. Is that 2/3 of Midland City upset? Yes, it is. Because if you write Worcester, not Worcester, for anyone unsure about the pronunciation, but the city of Worcester upwards, it's RET, S-E-C-R-O-W. So we've got 2/3 of the letters of Worcester written upwards, containing car, gives us scarecrow. And I came across Worcester this week in the Times' pickle puzzle, where you have to identify where and when a photo was. And they featured Edward Elgar, a statue of Edward Elgar in a high street. And I knew he was from Worcestershire, but I didn't know that he was from Worcester. And I guessed Malvern, another town in Worcester, which was pretty close. I didn't do badly, but I couldn't quite remember. Elgar was from Worcester. Anyway, there you go. So I don't know much about classical music, but I know where Edward Elgar was from. Right, 9 across, beginning with a C, 7 letters. Trick question, curtailed win. There's not a lot there to be wordplay, is there? But trick, we're always trying to think of our short synonyms and abbreviations. And a trick could be a con, or a scam, or a hoax. But con is nice and short, and my goodness, it begins with C. So, is there a word for win that begins with con? Well, there is. And today, on the very day that the Bayeux tapestry was shipped to the British Museum, we can remember William the Conqueror and the word conquer. So trick is con, Q-U-E-R is question curtailed. Well, how does that work? It's the word query cut short, and we get conquer. Now, what shall we try? The other acrosses where we have letters, or the downs? Let's try the acrosses first. They might be harder on Richard's principle of difficulty at the beginning of the clue set. 13 across. Set fuel to burn, suppressing naked anger. Naked there. Naked. I'm focusing on that. That's one of our recipe words. It often means strip off the outer letters of something. Well, that can't be applying to suppressing. It's got to be applying to the next word, anger. If you strip off the outer letters of anger, you've got N-G-E. Now, can we think of any words that begin with a C, 7 letters, and have N-G-E in somewhere? Well, we're looking for a meaning perhaps of set. And the word that occurs to me, not congest, but congeal. And that has got coal, which is fuel to burn, and that coal is suppressing that NGE that we found in anger. So that's congeal. Let's try the next clue. 15 across. Instrument for period recording? Question mark. I don't know what that is. Is that a timer? It doesn't feel very cryptic if it is. Period could be time. I think if recording could be abbreviated to R, I think that could be timer. But I don't think recording can be abbreviated to R. So I don't think that's the instrument. I'd much rather have a musical instrument from just the definition instrument, because that would feel a bit more cryptic. But I don't know that I know. If there's a drum, is there a tabor? There are various drums beginning with T, actually. Tom-tom, timpani, tabla, tabor. If I'm right about tabor. I think there may be a Japanese one. That might begin with D. Not sure. Would tabor work here? Instrument for period recording. And the question mark implies that the clue is being a bit cheeky in some way. And I don't know what the answer is. I mean, tuner? Timer? Toner? I don't know. I'm going to move on. Well done if you've got that. I feel like that might be a hard one to get a click that this is definitely right on. But anyway, 17 across. Feel embarrassed somewhat about scrap. Simon tells us each week that there's always at least one hidden. And I think we found it. Somewhat is a very fair indicator of some hidden letters within the clue. And if you take this phrase, feel embarrassed, you might have to turn it about. That's what the word about is doing in this clue. So you take feel embarrassed, to an extent, 5 letters from that, E-E-L-E-M. You turn them about and you get, well, it's variously pronounced melee or melee, I think. And that is a scrap in the sense of a fight or a brawl. I am going to carry on with these short crosses, but only where I've got a letter in the grid. So 19 down, 19 across, sorry. Reduce glare. That kind of has to be a double definition because there's no wordplay indicators there. There's nothing you can do except have 2 definitions or maybe 1 cryptic definition. But here, it's very neat. This is a word that, what do they call these? Heteronyms or something. It's a word that its spelling can be pronounced in 2 totally different ways. And to reduce prices is to lower them, but to glare is to lower. If something is lowering in your future, it's glaring in it. And that is lower or lower. You wouldn't know in this clue which is the definition because it could be either end. They're both definitions. And double definition is one of the rarer types of clue we find in these crossword masterclasses. But it's a beautiful surface. I mean, reduce glare is exactly the sort of phrase you meet in everyday use all the time and beautifully designed. Right, 20 across. Designer of roster for pig farmer. Roster is a list. Designer of roster for pig farmer. Are we looking, and the question mark means that we're being a bit naughty about the pig farmer. The hyphen in pig farmer, this isn't minute cryptic, so we're probably going to have to interpret pig farmer all as one meaning. In minute cryptic or sort of libertarian standards, Guardian crosswords, you might have pig as one word, farmer gives you something else. Farmer might be the definition, pig might be in the wordplay. That won't be happening here. So I don't know what the answer here is, if I'm honest. I feel like hogster or something could be a pig farmer, or so I'd love to come up with a word for a pig that's at the beginning of this. Ham maker, hammer or something. I could imagine hammer being pig farmer ? But I don't know what the word for a pig is that's being sort of corrupted into what might theoretically be a pig farmer. And I don't know what roster is a list. That's what I said. Stylist is a designer. Yes, a roster for a pig farmer would be the stylist. Either the list of styes that he has to visit or the list of people who are dealing with the stye. So a stylist, that's why we get the question mark, because there isn't really such a thing as a stylist that is a roster for a pig farmer, but there could be, and it's a lovely idea. Okay, let's go on to 6 down. Oh, by the way, let's bear in mind that Z in Ozawa is making us think about, and Q in Conquer. We're probably going to be looking at a palindrome here. So we've got J, X, K all to come. Anyway, order having the benefit of ignoring leaders of youth groups. Is unison order? If you're speaking in unison, it's not really. That's oneness. What youth groups? I feel like we need to ignore the leading letters. That's what ignoring leaders means. Of certain groups of youths. But I don't know what the answer is here. Order having the benefit. And what's having the benefit of? Into? And there just wouldn't be enough. There aren't enough letters for. Maybe in or on is having the benefit of. I don't know. Let's have a look at 7 down. Cork sweetener for plonk. So this looks like it's referring to wine with a cork and plonk in it. A cork, though, when I was doing chemistry, the sort of corks you put in the top of flasks were called bungs. Oh, and a bung can be a bribe these days. When I was at school, that didn't exist. But nowadays, if you give a bung to a football manager, it's a bribe. And I think maybe plonk is a third definition. If you plonk something down, you bung it down on the desk. I think you need 2 different British slang words. I think it's a triple definition, and that's very rare. But I think that's what's going on. A cork is a bung, a sweetener is a bung, and to plonk is to bung. And I'm confident that's the answer. And the very fact that I'm saying I'm confident it's the answer means it's one of the ones I'm less confident in so far, but still pretty confident. Right, 8 down, lanthanum, used in reconstruction of Nordic warship. How well do you know your periodic table abbreviations? Lanthanum is La. That much I do know. I don't know anything about it. It could be a rare earth metal or a radioactive substance. I think it begins one lower row of the table from what I remember, but I know it's La. And so we're going to use the letters La in a reconstruction of the word Nordic. So it's got to be an anagram of Nordic with La in it. And we're looking for a warship. And I haven't actually thought of what that is yet. Oh, because it's an unusual compound, ironclad. A couple of the warships from the past were called ironclads, presumably because they were coated in iron, and dreadnought because they feared nothing. They're very odd compound warship names. And Indiaman, there's another one. Bizarre names. Maybe not a warship in Indiaman. That was more a trade ship. But anyway, let's have a look at 11 across. I haven't even looked at this yet. Maybe heart stops affecting supply to one's pipes. The heart is an example of an organ. So, and an organ has pipes. It also has stops, actually. Yes, that's what the rest of the definition here is, the last 6 words of the clue. That's very unusual. In fact, it's a double definition, effectively. Maybe heart is one definition. And an organ is also being defined by the fact that stops affect the supply of air to the pipes of an organ. And that's what's going on. Now, I haven't really got much extra for 6 down. Unborn would fit, but it doesn't seem relevant to the clue. Order, having the benefit of ignoring leaders of youth groups. Oh, to enjoin somebody to do something is to tell them to do it. I thought it was to beg them to do it rather than to order them to do it. How well... does have a J for our potential palindrome. So I like enjoin for 2 silly reasons. Let's try now and find the word play that proves enjoin is right. Having the benefit of ignoring leaders of youth groups. Oh, the leaders of the words youth groups are Y and G. Enjoying is having the benefit of. If you're enjoying a nice period of weather, you're having the benefit of it. And if that ignores the Y in it and the G, you're left with enjoin. Wow, that was surprising. Right, let's go on to these other downs that have letters appearing in them. 14 down. Perhaps a blow, being all in when Louisiana stands for America. I think we've got a replacement here. We had lanthanum as LA before. Now we've got Louisiana almost certainly being LA. And that is standing for. That's going to replace an abbreviation for America. That could be A or US or USA. Perhaps a blow must be the definition end of the clue. So is it a wind? Being all in, that's exhaustion, exhausted. All in is a phrase that means either completely committed or absolutely spent and exhausted. I'm all in. Right, and it's got US in it. So if we replace US with LA in exhaust, we get exhalation. Perhaps that's a blow. It is breathing out, and that could be a blow. And that's US in exhaustion being replaced by Louisiana, LA. Lovely. Okay. 16 down. Dreadful tedium gripping last month's host. Dreadful is a very strong anagram indicator. Normally that's what it is. So can we play around with the letters of tedium and grip? Well, it's going to be 3 letters for last month. That can sometimes be DEC, D-E-C, for December. which is the last month of the year. But there is also the business abbreviation of alt, which this month is inst and last month is alt. Is it instant and ultime? I think they stand for. Not entirely sure, but this LT that we've got in the grid strongly suggests that we need alt, and the anagram of tedium we can put around it will give us multitude, which is host, not in the sense of a party giver, but in the sense of a large group of people. An army is a host. Okay, let's go on to 17 down. Airborne pest miles over southern capital. Well, M and S is very useful there. Airborne pest. And I'm thinking not so much about something in an aircraft, but something that flies under its own steam with its own wings. And the pest that comes to mind is a mosquito. Quito is a capital. It's the capital of Ecuador. It's literally on the equator, I think. So miles can be M. Over, again, that's from cricket, can be O. Southern can be S. We've got 3 single letter abbreviations and then Quito, and we get mosquito. Okay, let's go back to the acrosses. This is looking like timer now. Instrument, I mean, I don't think tamer would fit, but it's just irrelevant. So it must be timer, and it's not being made up of period equals time and R equals recording. I mean, a timer is overall an instrument for recording periods, so the whole clue defines it. So is this an and lit? Why is this also wordplay for timer? Instrument for period recording. Oh, I don't know. No, I was thinking about the time. Oh, I see. When you set the timer on your video or something. I suppose, yeah, those are two. Are they two different timers? One is the timer on your video or your TiVo or your whatever it is that sets a recording. And the other is a watch or a stopwatch that does period recording. I mean, it is timer. I'm sure it's timer. I'm not quite sure that I've explained that fully. I think it's sort of 2 different instruments that you use for period recording. And one is a very literal recording, tape recording, and the other is a more noting a time using a stopwatch or something. Anyway, I'm going to move on to 18 across. Sucker, pronounced not entirely safe, idiomatically. Is an aphid a sucker? It's an insect. It's a pest on plants. Does it suck? And why would that be not entirely safe idiomatically? Oh, if you pronounce the phrase safe idiomatically, in the middle of that, you have the sounds saphid idiomatic, aphid. I've never seen a hidden homophone, I don't think, before. So every day is a school day. There we go, aphid. Right, let's go on to these other acrosses. Some of them we have 2 letters in. 23, 2-7 phrase. Drip caught by painter working secretly. Working. Working is not so obvious as what was the earlier dreadful anagram indicator, but working can be an anagram indicator. So is there something we could put into an anagram of painter that would mean drip and then give us a phrase meaning secretly? In camera means secretly, but that's not the right length, or it doesn't fit with that A, so that's not it. In petto, that's another phrase that means in the breast. When a pope appoints a cardinal in petto, he keeps it to himself for a while. I don't know, and I think I might be on the wrong track. Painter can also be abbreviated to RA, or that's a Royal Academician, or we might need the name of a painter like Monet or something. Working can be on. Drip. I don't know what drip can be. A sort of wet individual is a drip, a man or a mouse. No, I don't know. I'm going to have to come back to that with more letters. Let's try 25 across. Single or plural pronoun in conjunction for Germans. Und means and in German. I don't know much German, but I know that. And there are not very many conjunctions, and but, and a few others. But und would be a very obvious one. Single, unwed. Oh, we is a plural pronoun. We put it into und and we get unwed, which means single, in a very different sense in the actual clue from plural. So it's another beautiful construction where single or plural gets started and you think they're both referring to grammatical matters, but it turns out that single is referring to marital matters instead. Okay, 27 across. Made one female in two for wife of 25. Have we solved 25? 25 across was unwed, which does relate to marital things, as I just said. But you can't have wife of unwed. Oh, you could replace the W in unwed with something. Unified. Oh, we had made one earlier, and it was or make as one, and that was conflate or think of as one. And this time we're making one, we're unifying, and unified has F in the Roman number 2, which is II, and it's all replacing the W in the clue we just did, unwed, and we get unified. Wow, okay, now 28 across. Fail heavily, being a mug, and the H has been elided off heavily and replaced with an apostrophe, suggesting that we're going to have to mimic that in the answer. We're going to have to think of a word for to fail heavily that begins with an H and remove that H in this sort of Cockney version of the word. I couldn't get that particularly, but I can see that the definition is at the other end, therefore, being a mug, and that's a tankard, given this T and D in the grid. So to tank hard is to fail heavily. That's quite funny. Tanking is failing, or throwing a set of tennis, appropriate during these Wimbledon times. People don't often get accused of that, but it does happen. 29 across. Harder to track each person in a rightish district. Each can be abbreviated to EA. And that's making me think about east, words beginning east. Eastbound, eastwards, they don't fit. The right side of a compass is east. So in a rightish district, I think I'm onto something here. Is it Eastlands? How would that work? Oh, harder to, is that the opposite of easy? Harder to track each person. Person could be PER for person. I'm tempted by Eastlands, but I don't know why. So I'm going to go back to the downs now. 18 down. Oh, I haven't looked at this. Ruse, i.e. craft, I devised. Well, look at those letters, i.e. craft I. What are they doing in this apart from providing 8 letters that we can anagram to give us a ruse? We can devise those letters into artifice. That's what they're doing. 21 across. Helping served up during pub's spicy meal. Now, I don't know if I had no letters in the grid, would I have any clue what was going on here? No, but those letters in the grid are very suggestive. And if you go out for an Indian, that is a spicy meal. So that is aid being served upwards, DIA, during, i.e. inside a pub, which in this case is an inn, INN, and we get Indian. 22 down, unionist who might make sparks fly with senior advisor. Unionist can be abbreviated to U. That's not common in the Times crossword, much more common in the listener, but it can. Who might make sparks fly with senior advisor, a doyen, or senior can be SR. Who might make sparks fly? A blowtorch user, a fireworks setter off? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I'm going to go on. 24 down. These are very desirable vocal sounds. So it's probably vocal can mean of vowels as well as of the voice. Use, it can't be some homophone for that. So these are very desirable. I'm thinking we're looking for a word that can mean things that are very desirable, but also vocal sounds. I don't know what that word is, and I might be on the wrong track. We're going to have to come back to that as well. Let's see if we can finish off the bottom left with 26 down. Nothing detracted from outside side of building. Side of building looks like wing there to me. Okay, if you take O, which is nothing, just looks like it, away from outstanding, not in the sense of protruding, but in the sense of a debt being outstanding or owing, you get wing. So I'm going to go back to 29 down, which Eastlands is not right now, but Easterner would fit. Is that a person in a rightish district? Yes, it is. A person to the right of the map is an Easterner. So it's sterner is tracking EA. Harder is sterner. If you are a sterner, if you have a sterner outlook, it is a harder outlook. Okay, 13 across. In private would fit. And here we have got the letters of painter in this. Oh, what's going into that? IV. Intravenous drip is an IV. I do not know my hospital abbreviations, but secretly there is in private. I probably said in private when I was describing in camera and in petto. Right, we go back to 22 down, and we're not thrilled about these letters. There are still many, many words that will fit this string. Lender and vendor and header and feeder. Oh, we're going to have to work it out. Unionist. That's not a wedder. Oh, a welder. The guy using the blowtorch might be a welder. Elder could be a senior advisor. And with, it's so hard to spot that with is abbreviated to W because it just looks like it's a link word sometimes. But here, I think unionist who might make sparks fly is someone uniting two bits of metal with their welding iron. And then the wordplay is W for with and elder for senior advisor. And that is going to take us to this last word. These are very desirable vocal sounds. Is it plums? Plum is sometimes used as utterly the best thing, like the plum choice is the prize choice, the best choice. But why would plums be vocal sounds? From a plummy accent, which sounds as though you have plums in your mouth traditionally. No, I don't know. I think that might be plums. But there are other words that would fit. And I've got to spend my time just thinking about those plugs. An author might want a plug if they were going on a program, but they're not very desirable. Pouts, pause, vocal sounds. I was expecting some sort of homophone. Plums just doesn't off. Oh, it does offer a homophone. Ah, yes. To plumb the depths is to sound the depths. To plumb that. It's now used as a metaphor, meaning to go very low. But originally, to plumb the depths meant to find out how deep something was by plumbing it, and that is also called sounding. So this sounds like PLUMBS. Was Mr. Trump recently, I think, was saying he kept using the word Democrats and then explaining that he'd taken the word dumb and removed the B. Did you know it was spelt with a B? Not many people know that. I think all of you know that dumb is spelt with a B and that there's a version of plum spelt with a B. And here we are taking the version of plum spelt with a B, hearing it and getting plums, and they are very desirable. So there is the answer. Did we get our full pangram? Did I call it a palindrome earlier? Probably did. We've got A, B, C, D in the puzzle. E, where's F here? G, H, I can see a G, and H, I, J, K, tankard. L, M, N, O, P. We've definitely got two Qs in conquer and mosquito. Is this a dipangram? I can't see a second K. I don't think it is. Where did I get to? Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X. Where was our X? Exhalation. Y in stylist. Z in Ozawa, whose first name I still don't know. And there we go. That is the solution. Let's submit it and see if we can get it marked as correct. And yes, I think we can. That, well, I mean, the only red letter is where I left the cursor, so I don't think there's a problem with that. That is the solution, and that is Roger Phillips's tour de force in today's times. A lovely puzzle with a lot of exemplifying strategies, and maybe the first example I've ever seen of a hidden homophone. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you got something out of today's video, and that it spurs you on your journey in cryptic crosswords. Do have a look at my Solve with the Sabre on Patreon if you get a chance. It's a really interesting conclusion to the puzzle. And I will see you again soon on the channel. Bye for now.